Hello and good day everyone, this is Gary House. I'm going to be walking you through my latest Unity tutorial. Today, we're going to be talking about Unity Studio, a brand new product from Unity. Let's take a look at my build first. What I've done here is I built a simple product configurator around a fictional product that I designed called the uPadPro. You can see here you can select from two different sizes, and then you have a number of different options. The ability to look around the object, zoom in and out, as well as you can actually change the tints of the metal frame. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's take a cerulean blue. There's also an animated logo on the front. We've got a green metallic finish, mojito as I call it, a crimson, as well as a violet. And over on the right, you're going to see that I have additional UI, including a case button, which enables and disables a case. And that case, you can change the colors down below on the panel that says silicone case tints. Now you can also go ahead and, let's zoom in a little bit. We can also enable and disable a stylus that I've also created and designed for the uPadPro. And again, it's a toggle feature. So let's switch back out to home. And now let's switch to the 12-inch version. It's the same exact user interface and interaction components within the UI. The difference, of course, is the size of the device. There's a case for it, and then the case animation for the tints pops up the panel at the bottom. Again, stylus as well as case, and we still have our animated logo on the front. There's a bit of a green one. And no case at all. Very cool stuff. Alright, now let's switch over to Unity's Asset Manager. This browser-based tool is our perfect solution for centralized control, versioning, and interaction with our content. You can see here, I've got a number of different objects, including previews for my 3D stylus that I modeled and created in Modo and Blender. We also have our text, which is 3D text. I created this text not as a font, but as an actual set of geometry so that I can animate it. Here's one of our cases, the silicone case that we saw enabled and disabled in the preview. You can also see the information that's available on each asset in Asset Manager. In this case, we're using GLT Fast for our 3D models. Here's the 12-inch version of the uPadPro. And again, you can see on the right the different features, or attributes I should say, that are associated with any object that you select. Again, this is a 3D preview. You can tumble around and see exactly what this looks like in its basic or neutral form. The Asset Manager is a very powerful tool. It acts as our single source of truth, again for control, versioning, and interaction with all of our 3D and 2D content. Alright, let's switch over to Unity Studio. It's completely based in a browser. Let's open my project. You can see we're using 0.44.1 of Unity Studio. It's a beta. Once open, you can see we have panels. On the left, we have our hierarchy panel, which showcases everything in the scene. In the upper left, on the hamburger menu, you can see a number of different features, tools, etc. You see here, I'm selecting one of my game objects in the scene. On the right hand side, you see the attribute editor. On the bottom, you'll see everything related to our project, including my assets. You can see here a number of different materials, animations, 3D content, and then also my logic. So this is where we will create and store all of our programmatic features associated with objects within the scene. Now, if we look at the bottom of the scene view, you can see there's different tools for move, rotate, scale, etc. Each of those are correspondingly mapped to a number or key on the keyboard. You can see here in the upper left, I have an undo button as I accidentally moved my object. There's also a redo button, as well as other features within the UI. Let's go through a few of those now. At the top, you'll see a play button. You'll also see a report bug, submit feedback, taking a picture, and also bugs if there are any bugs in your code. Alright, let's hit play. Before we dive further into the project, let's talk about what Unity Studio actually is. Unity Studio is a web-based, no-code 3D editor that allows users to create, visualize, and share interactive 3D content directly in a browser without installing any software. It's designed for non-gaming industries like manufacturing, architecture, product design, and marketing, and allows users to import 3D models, build scenes, and add interactivity using a visual, no-code system called Logic. Logic is very similar in concept and execution to Scratch. It's specifically built for teams who are stuck between static assets and complex development tools. Unity Studio lets you quickly import 3D data, build interactive 3D applications, and easily share them across devices for reviews and iterations. No coding, no heavy software installs, it's just easy 3D creation that works. Users do not need to have any coding experience to build these interactive applications. Artists, designers, engineers, trainers, and marketing team members can now build their own 3D interactive applications quickly and easily. Easily build anything in interactive 3D, from product demos to training scenarios, walkthroughs to configurators, and more, all without coding anything. Use a drag and drop editor that anyone can learn. Unity Studio ships with a number of templates to help you get started, as well as a complete and comprehensive set of documentation. Now that I'm out of play mode, let's take a look at how the scene is organized. On the left, I'm going to select the UI canvas. There are multiple objects underneath this canvas that are currently disabled. I also have a scene necessary node, which is just an empty game object that I renamed, and then I put other objects underneath it. You can create it simply by right-clicking and creating an empty object. There's other features as well, including the ability to place primitives and UI elements right from within the right mouse button here in this window. Next, I have a directional light, a visual target, and my background sphere, which is what gives me the white environment in which the configurator takes place, as well as an animation director where we can animate multiple objects simultaneously. Next, let's select the camera, and on the right you can see some of the features created by its logic, as well as an additional directional light to help accentuate the 3D content a little bit more. Okay, let's take a look at a few other things. Let's disable the opener logo so it's not in the way, and then let's just take a quick peek at some of the 3D content, in this case the 11-inch uPad. I enabled the main object, the case, and the stylus, and it's all organized under an overall node, so it'll be easier to animate and enable during my logic processes. I'm disabling these objects again so we can go back to making sure that the scene is clear so we can continue to work on our logic. Alright, so let's go to our canvas. Now on our canvas, we've got some different panels. These panels are just buttons that I named panels, and then I added buttons to those. In this case, you can see home case stylus for the 11-inch uPad has a home button, a case button, and a stylus button. Each one of these buttons has animation as well as logic associated with it. We'll get to the logic in a little bit. Alright, let's show you what the animation looks like. This is a fade animation, so once you hit the record button, you can now scrub through and see what I've previously animated. There's our functional components from our logic. Let's go ahead and take a look at the logic for that button. And what we've got here is we've got a number of variables that I've created. Me is default, but I added button, panel, home case stylus, close case, etc. Now in the main scene area, we're going to do a when, so we drag that block in. And what this is going to do is allow us to set up the functionality. So when the button is clicked on, you can then set active, and then take our variables, in this case panel, home case, stylus, put it in there, as well as making sure that it's both those flags are disabled temporarily. Let's delete those. And that's basically how the rest of it works. And those variables back in the editor will allow me to assign game objects so that it'll work. Let's close out our logic. All right, here's our home icon. Now if we take a look at the icons on the left, we have the ability to enable or disable our case, as well as the logic associated with it. Let's go ahead and edit that. It's a little bit different script, but it's set up similarly. You create your own variables. In this case, I created button object 1 and 2 and is active. Now in the logic, it's pretty simple and straightforward. With the is active is set to a string, not a game object, by the way. Now, if I drag that into the scene, you can see I'm telling it or opening it up so you can see that it is in fact set to string. Now, it's very similar. When the button is clicked on, then we set is active, which is our variable that we set up, to not active. And then we bring in our object and set value to active, which is 1, and then object 2 is also set to active. There we go. Close it out. Now if we click on our stylus button, it's a very similar situation. We've got an animation as well as button stylus functions, which is the name of the logic I created. Very similar. You can see here switching between the different scripts that I've created. Let's close it out. Well, let's start taking a look at some of the other UI elements, specifically panels and the functions that exist within those panels. So we're going to go ahead and actually enable the anodized tints panel as well as my case tints panel for the 11-inch uPadPro. And both of these are literally just buttons that then have buttons parented underneath them as children. And each one of these buttons is actually, when you click the button, it's actually going to call an animation from the uPadPro. So what we've done is on the initial object, we would go in and set up animations. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yes, the key thing here is to remember is that each of these buttons are doing nothing more than calling an animation, and the animation itself is literally nothing more than a change in color. So let's close out the close out these panels so we can see the functionality. Okay, let's go ahead and close out that final panel. We'll hit close and then we'll hit play. Okay, so let's walk through the project one more time, the configurator itself in its final form. Again, we have the ability to very quickly and easily integrate 3D content, 2D content such as images, icons, as well as being able to create functionality that really allows us to build this simple configurator in a really quick fashion. So I appreciate your time today. I hope this was helpful. Look forward to the next tutorial and talk to you soon.